Hey guys, it's Rachel with Pretty Plants. Thank you so much for coming. I'm so glad you're here. If you're new here, I have 5 children, 3 animals, and a very hungry husband. Garden. So thanks for coming. Today I'm going to be talking about hydrogen peroxide in LECA and hydrogen peroxide in general in your gardening. It's a very wonderful element to add to your gardening routine. I did have a couple of plant fails this week and I wanted to share those fails with you. If you're interested in my fails, I'll be talking about those after the hydrogen peroxide. They were really bad. And one of them belonged to a friend of mine. So anyway, Priscilla, I owe you a new plant. With hydrogen peroxide, when it rains, tiny amounts of hydrogen peroxide are in rainwater. And so that is why plants do so well after rain. This hydrogen peroxide is H2O2. It has 1 extra oxygen. You can get 3% or 6% or 35% hydrogen peroxide. I am going to be just talking about 3% for my formulas, and I'll put the formulas down below. If you want to save a plant or a tree that has all these dead branches and looks like it's dead, you can kind of, cut. If you make a cut into a tree and see green on it, it's still alive. It just needs a hydrogen peroxide treatment. You take the tree out of the LECA or out of dirt, and you're going to soak it for 6 hours, 2 tablespoons per gallon of the water. So soak it about 6 hours, which is what I've been doing. People are asking me a little bit about my Epsom salt soaks. This is at my experimental phase right now, but I'm noticing if I do a couple of tablespoons of Epsom salt per gallon and I soak the plant in Epsom salt water before letting it dry out on the counter, it's doing really, really well. And it's not showing many signs of stress after. There's a stress period where the leaves curl, and so far my Epsom salt bath plants are not showing signs of stress. If you're sprouting seeds, hydrogen peroxide will make the seeds sprout faster. It's 1 teaspoon per liter of water, and you can water the seedling tray. It's awesome. Now, this is what I kind of like my straight hydrogen peroxide for in a spray bottle, is I disinfect the LECA or disinfect. Really, I use it a lot for pots from the nursery. Normally what I do is take the dirt off, and if I remember, or if it's a plant that gets root rot really easily, I spray the roots with hydrogen peroxide and also with Super Thrive. I let them dry out, put them in dry LECA, water them. That's worked really well so far, treating root rot. Now, this is a big one. This is where I really, really love hydrogen peroxide. It's $2 for a big bottle. It is the most effective root rot treatment I know. And so when you overwater the roots, you have basically suffocated the roots with H2O. And when you bring H2O2 into the system, it gives them the extra oxygen they need to recover and develop more roots. So you kind of want to keep on hand 2 tablespoons of hydrogen peroxide for 1 gallon of water, and you're going to water your plant with that. So if it's in LECA, you're going to pull off the roots, get the root rot off. You're going to let it dry on the counter, and then you're going to go ahead and water the plant, no water in the bottom reservoir, with your H2O2 mixture. 2 tablespoons H2O2 per gallon water. Did not do this with, I know how easily pothos rot. And when I first watered it, I just used regular water, because I always talk about don't use any nutrients when you first water. However, I think, this is my theory, if I'd watered it with hydrogen peroxide water the first watering, I wouldn't have had as much root rot in the pot. Now, this is my pothos, and what I did, I just put it in H2O2 water, and I'm gonna grow its roots in water for a couple of weeks before I try it in LECA again. I got all the root rot off, but if you have a pothos that's suffering from root rot, you will start to see this. Brown is root rot, and pothos are especially subjected to the root rot bacteria. And once it starts, it spreads through the whole thing and it'll kill it. So you want to get that out of the LECA, get the root rot off. You can spray it with hydrogen peroxide, put it back in the LECA, but this particular plant I'm going to try to save by putting it in just water. Lots of light and you know, the elements, lots of light, humidity, just a couple weeks, and then I'm going to try again. Once a month. This was another one that's really good for LECA. Once a month, you can water, or once a year in the spring or whatever, you can water the plant, a gallon of water and a tablespoon of hydrogen peroxide in there. And what I'm thinking, just to boost the oxygen again, and I have noticed my plants do better if every once in a while I treat them with a little hydrogen peroxide water. So do with that what you will. If it's for a watering, you can do a tablespoon per gallon, cups of 3% hydrogen peroxide per gallon of water. That's a lot. For fungus gnats, if your plants are still in soil and you're having fungus gnats, water the top with this solution. Again, I'll put the solutions down below. 2 cups of 3% hydrogen peroxide, or 1 cup of 6% hydrogen peroxide per gallon of water. Fungus gnats, water with the solution. It will kill the fungus gnats and their eggs, their babies. It's for mold, mildew, fungus. You can put it in a spray bottle and spray for the mildew and fungus on. So that's hydrogen peroxide. I love it, and I've been incorporating it more and more into my plant routine. Now, my plant fails this week. The dry root, Bebee Plants, I talked about last week, I'm gonna experiment with it. And for me, I think I do better taking the plant out of the dirt, putting it on the counter, letting it dry, and putting it in dry LECA, but watering it within a few hours. I waited 36 hours on one plant. I waited, 24 to 48 hours on 2 plants, and they both did really bad. And then I wanted to show you what you do when you do have a plant fail. So look at this poly. It looks really, really bad. And so never ever judge a plant by its cover. Always take the plant out of the LECA and check the roots. So this poly looks terrible, but it's actually doing really, really well. It did have some root rot, and that root rot, I'm gonna lose these 2 leaves, but these roots are phenomenal. And those are for me. I completely ignored this guy, and the LECA was too wet, but these guys seem to really like the wet LECA and were growing vigorously. So what I'm gonna do with this one is I'm gonna just put it into a little water with 2 drops of Super Thrive, let the roots grow another inch or 2, and then move it back to LECA. Last thing I wanted to talk about, because you've probably seen it on my Instagram. If you're not following me, I'll put the Instagram on the screen. But these, this is what I kind of experimenting right now with cloth bags. The cloth bags are really popular with farmers. The cheapest cloth bag a farmer will use, is the Walmart reusable bag. I think they're 50 cents. So if you Google it, you'll see a lot of farmers with onions and carrots and all this stuff growing in Walmart bags. I ordered some professional cloth bags, but felt like I really, really like them. They're nice and sturdy. The fabric is kind of like felt. However, this is kind of tall for LECA. A lot of my stuff doesn't need to be, this is kind of a big container for LECA. And so what I'm finding myself doing is, and I'm gonna move over and show you, I repotted a Hoya in a cloth bag this week, and I tried to fold it over and save the bag, but I just couldn't. I needed the Hoya to be more in like a nest. It was in a nest shape before, and I needed that shallow nest feel for the Hoya to be successful. So on this bag, I cut it around right there, and then I put a plastic saucer underneath, and I put it inside of a really pretty hanging thing. I went ahead and watered the first watering. I'd let it sit on the counter overnight, so the roots had been dried overnight, and I went ahead and watered it with it was about a tablespoon of hydrogen peroxide per gallon. and because I really want the roots not to rot. And so I wanted that first watering to have a little hydrogen peroxide. And then I hung it outside in a shady tree. So it's gonna get the humidity, it's gonna get the light, it's gonna get the warmth, and hopefully it'll push this Hoya into growth before the fall happens. I've been doing this a year now, a little over a year, and many of my plants I bought a year ago and they're still alive. So if you've had fantastic growth in LECA this summer, please put it down below. Let me know which plant has just grown the most aggressively. Steras, I've had to repot them twice already this year. That's my fastest growing plant this season. If you love this show, make sure to like, subscribe, comment, and I'll see you next time. Love you. Bye-bye.